Hi, guys. Welcome to a beautiful, windy episode. It's like never windy here, and today it's windy. A beautiful episodes on luxury carpets. I'm very excited because it's something I'm interested in, but I don't know a lot about. So it is exciting to have an expert, someone who's been in a legacy family doing carpets in India for generation after generation. This is Nikhil. Hi, Nikhil. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Pernia. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm just stressed over the wind because I have to speak extra loud today. Thank you for coming from Jaipur.
I'm really excited. The last time we spoke about this was in Jaipur,
Yes.
and we had a really nice chat, and I've been excited ever since to do this with you. Thank you for having me over.
My pleasure. So basically, you have a carpet legacy brand called Tissage.
Yes, that is correct. My family has been doing hand knotted rugs for about 4 generations. My great grandfather started this in the 50s, right after independence. My father and my uncle continued, they formed a new company in the 70s. The present iteration, Tissage, is a passion project for me, and it's something that came into existence about a decade ago. It's a design studio where we take inspiration from various different aesthetics, various different topics that are relevant, and express ourselves through our rugs.
That's not an Indian name. It's French, right?
It's French. The name came about in a really interesting fashion as well. This is back in the day when we'd go to a show in Germany called Domotex, and I remember traveling across Europe at that point in time, and I saw the word tissage. It means weaving. I really liked it, and I had a German friend of mine with me. And the unfortunate joke at that point was, it'll at least get you more traction in the fair with all the European customers if they can have a name that they can at least pronounce. And that's how it sort of came about. But it kind of stuck. We never changed it, and here we are.
Lovely. I'm literally a layman when it comes to carpets, right? What constitutes a luxury carpet? Like, what defines that this carpet is a product of luxury? It is high end. It is worth the price, rather than a regular carpet that you can buy online from wherever.
I'll answer that question, but I want to say two things.
Yeah.
One, I think, like any other art form, it's not really the canvas that dictates. You never ask like a painter, okay, tell me about the fineness of the canvas, and I'll pay you accordingly, right?
Right,
It's an
right.
art form, so it's an expression. It's like
Right.
buying a beautiful piece of jewelry.
Right.
It really is the rendition of an artist's vision, right? So
Right.
that's the first part of it.
So you're paying for artistic value.
You're definitely paying for artistic value.
Yeah.
Even in terms of pricing a rug, why is one rug from an artist more expensive than the other? It has a lot of variables, right? The raw material is a big part of it. The karigari, the artisanal value of it is a huge part of it. There are rugs that are extremely difficult to weave. There are rugs that take artisans who've been doing this for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, right? Some of the grafts are so difficult to weave that, somebody who just kind of came into this wouldn't even be able to weave them.
Takes an expert.
Takes an
basically.
absolute expert to
Yeah.
sort of do this. The number of colors, how close are the colors to each other? Goes on and on, but it's a very complex equation. That kind of dictates the pricing of a hand-knotted rug.
On your website, I kept my phone here today because I was going through your website and it was really interesting. It says over 10,000 knots per minute, more than 600 hours of perfecting colors, 50 days of fine tuning and finishing, 21 weeks of weaving a rug. I think this would constitute for a luxury rug.
I hope so. If this doesn't, then I don't really know what does.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So,
Yeah.
one of my roles, and it's not the most fortunate, it's one of my unfortunate roles. A lot of the nicest things that we do in India, as you know and you do attest to, actually are meant for customers outside.
Why are they meant for customers outside?
Talking about rugs specifically,
Yeah.
India's always traditionally been a rug producing nation. It's only in the last, I think, 10 years that we've really started understanding the true value of this underrated art form and started consuming rugs. I think it's all very recent in that sense. And I think a lot of that is being seen in other industries as well, right?
So, like growing up, I always heard about Persian carpets. Like having a Persian carpet in your home was like a flex. All beautiful homes like that were considered beautiful or upscale had a Persian carpet. Now, what's so special about a Persian carpet? Like, why is everyone obsessed with it?
In all fairness, Kashmiri carpets have always been
Oh,
extremely,
so Kashmiri
extremely
carpets are very
appreciated.
famous as well.
Well, historically, they've always been very, highly appreciated.
More than
in the
Persian
West.
carpets? Is there a difference between the technique?
There's definitely a difference in the way they weave them. But
Yeah.
but coming back to your original comment, a lot of it back in the day was just an expression, just a function of the number of knots per square inch.
Okay.
That was a metric that was used, years ago, decades ago, and that's changed a lot in the last, I'd say, 10 years for sure. Now it's, as I keep going back to to the expression, it's really just an iteration, an aesthetic iteration of what the designer wants to showcase.
Yeah.
So it has a lot more artisanal, artistic, aesthetic value today, a lot more than the number of knots per square inch. But back in the day, the intricacy of the design, the different regions in Persia, the workmanship was so exquisite. That was the ultimate flex, as you called it. Yeah.
But you're saying Kashmiri carpets are as good?
Kashmiri carpets historically, even back in the day, were as beautiful, if not
coveted.
more, as coveted for sure. Now you have Agra, and Jaipur is a huge center. I mean, Jaipur's had its moment now for a couple of decades. Where
Right.
you have the most beautiful, exquisite pieces of art adorning homes of celebrities across the world, the most high-end interior designers coming to Jaipur to kind of commission these beautiful projects. So Jaipur, I think, is definitely having its moment.
So you basically work a lot with these, I would say, exclusive interior decorators of a few H&Is all over the world, celebrities, non-celebrities, and then you customize carpets for them?
Well, we do a lot of it. A huge percentage of it is customized, is commission based. I have, unfortunately, a lot of NDAs in place, so I can't
Say for who?
can't go into specifics and
Yeah.
stuff. But 99% of what we do is residential.
Okay.
Our rugs, with the grace of God, adorn the nicest homes in India, outside, especially outside. And it's a really interesting part of end of the industry to be associated with.
In terms of the prices and I guess the pieces that you're making, you're probably at the top of the industry and in terms of luxury. Because you're doing bespoke, you're doing very special, you're doing these for these special clients, one-off carpets. Is that a good business plan in terms of
We'll
why didn't you
find
go
out.
I'm just thinking
Sure.
the other direction where you can be available online easily. I know you have one collection that's available, right?
We've done a couple of pop-ups in
Yeah.
the last 12 months
Yeah.
for India specifically, which is now available online through partners of ours in India. But the question that you asked me is really interesting. I really
Yeah.
want to take a second to answer that. At the end of the day, I mean, we all have to decide what we're passionate about, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we all have to decide what really makes us tick and, what gets you out of bed in the morning, Beautiful rug making, designing, conceptualizing is something that is a part of my DNA. I have always been excited about it. It's something that really has kept me in this industry for as long as I've been doing this. I don't want to change that. So it really is. I am a little biased when I answer this question, but it is a passion, personal passion of mine. That's the reason I've always been associated with this end of the industry, which is the highest end of the industry.
And I'm sure you enjoy working with those clients too, because they probably have an understanding. They also come with some background into what you do, right? Than the average person who just needs a carpet.
It's a more interesting process in the sense that you're dealing with people who are at the top of their game, who really, are driving the interior design industry, right?
Right.
So you get to learn a
Can
lot.
you name us at least the interior decorators you worked with?
It'd be unfair, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
might offend a few people if I don't name the others. Name one.
But
So,
some of the top ones all over the world.
we deal with some really, really interesting top end interior design firms
Yeah.
and customers out there. One of the things that I do get to experience because I'm part of this industry, and I think this is a very recent thing that started happening, is that rugs have become a lot more narrative driven. They're not just, it's not just about product, it's not just about the aesthetic value of a rug. I think we're living in a time where what you say matters, but also why do you want to say it matters as much,
Right,
right? So
yeah.
the last collection that we did was a collection called Nomni. This was a collection that we launched in India. It's a pop-up. It takes you through the beats of a woman's journey. It has 4 different acts. So Act 1 is bloom. It's an act where it's an act of wonder and innocence and curiosity, right? I mean, it's the beat that a woman goes through when she's just coming into her own.
Right.
The next act is, for example, rebellion. Inferno. And it's rebelling against expectation, the prejudices,
Right.
you're expected to get married, you expect to have
Right,
children,
right.
etc., etc. Serenity is another act where you come full circle and you realize that, I have to first be there for myself. I am as important when I'm at peace.
Right.
When I, love myself. So, I mean, there's a narrative with every collection, I think, which is becoming more and more important, and I think that's what we want to keep doing.
I think
Sure.
storytelling has become a theme which is at the forefront of all luxury brands
100%.
across the board, whether it's cars or clothes or, now everybody needs to buy into your beliefs, your story. Everyone needs to buy into that as a brand, right?
It's like, think about the people that you've met, right?
Yeah.
I mean, think about the people that you've met maybe in the last 12 months. The
Yeah.
ones that you remember and you take back home with you are the ones
Yeah.
who have the most amount of texture. They have something to say.
Right.
They have something to latch on to. There's
Right.
like some kind of hook.
Yeah.
I think products, and especially luxury products, art forms are exactly the same. If you just have an empty vessel, so to say,
Yeah.
without any meaning and without any narrative, it will not stick with you. As a customer, you want to be able to relate to the value systems, you need more than just pure aesthetic value, I feel.
Yeah. And what are some of the materials you use? Traditionally in India, what materials have been used for carpets?
So it's usually been traditionally been wool and silk.
Woolen silk.
Wool and silk.
Yeah.
We do a lot of more exotic materials as well, and of course because we're at the highest end. So I mean, this maybe doesn't represent the industry as a whole. We use, for example, mohair and cashmere and
You
Mongolian.
do cashmere carpets.
We do cashmere carpets.
I want to sleep on it.
We do. It actually makes for
Take
a
my
beautiful.
blanket and just sleep on the
It
carpet.
makes for a beautiful bedroom rug. That's what you want to
Right.
step on when you wake up in the morning. And
Yeah.
you want to just your bare feet.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do a lot of wool silk blends. We do linen. What we don't do is any synthetic materials. We don't do viscose. We don't do rayon. Any of those
Right.
cheaper materials
Right.
because it doesn't resonate with who we are. It doesn't resonate with what we want to do, what we want to say.
For example, in our dining room, we have silk drapes in the winter, and it's heavy and it's beautiful. And then in the summer, we changed it to linen. With carpets, is it like, would you suggest for people to do like a seasonal change? Maybe like wool and silk in the winter, change to linen in the summer?
I'll do one better.
Okay.
So we're doing now a lot of rugs which are actually blends of wool, silk, linen.
Okay.
Each material brings its own set of characteristics
Right.
in the rug.
Right. Some will bring a shine, some will bring the softness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Linen has like this beautiful nubby quality to
Right,
it. For
right, right.
example, silk has, of course, the sheen and,
Yeah.
and the sheer luxury. I mean, silk itself, I think, is the biggest brand name when it comes to
Exactly.
luxurious materials and stuff. And wool has its own sort of qualities and stuff. Also, I think there's so many misnomers about silk as a material, it being sensitive to wear and tear and all of that. Silk is actually one of the strongest materials for doing, for making rugs.
Okay.
I don't know how this sort of information kind of came about, but and especially when it's blended with other materials, it wears really well. You can have it through the summers, you can have it through the
So
winters.
if you do a blend of materials, and that's something you can carry through all seasons, and it kind of works.
You can carry it regardless. I mean, you can have
Yeah.
a beautiful woolen rug.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure you have these beautiful antiques that you've seen, woolen rugs and, the Met and the V&A and all these, old rugs which are a few hundred years old in
Right.
museums, and they're all wool. The fact that they've stood the test of time,
yeah.
for like a few hundred years just, tells you how durable they are.
So is wool the most durable material for a carpet?
Historically, wool and silk have been the two materials that have been used the most. Personally, I think both of them are as durable as the other, and they make for really incredible combinations when they're blended together.
Where did carpet weaving come into India from? Do you have any idea, like
I
about the
think-
history of carpets?
So, because I'm on camera, so if I get this wrong, I'm really going to be.
We'll edit it out.
I'm really going to be crucified.
we'll edit it out, don't worry.
But I think Akbar was in the 16th century, if I'm not mistaken. Akbar got in Persian artisans into India to start weaving rugs. And if I remember, if my history is accurate, I think he brought them for his own palaces. So
Okay.
Akbar got these, artisans, to make rugs for his own palaces, and then it kind of flowed from there. The rug weaving industry as a business, rugs being made in India and then being sent out of the country,
Right,
I
right.
think really came into its own after the partition and independence and all of that. It was in the 50s.
Okay. And now it's a thriving business.
It's an incredibly dynamic business. It has been a thriving industry for a few decades now, but
Yeah.
it's almost like the fashion industry now.
Yeah.
You have to do collections. There was nothing. I mean, there were no collections being done like 20,
Exactly.
30 years ago. Now you talk about collections like the same way you talk about clothing, fashion, and all of that. So it changes pretty drastically. It's changing, transforming pretty dramatically, I think.
That's really interesting. What would you be comfortable sharing? Like, since you do the ultimate luxury carpets out of India, what is like the most expensive carpet you've sold? Come on, Nikhil, you have to give me something. No client names, no something.
It really depends.
Give me a price range.
I'll give you an example. I'll give you, just for context.
Yeah.
A high end in the US market, for example, and I think India's similar, if my numbers are accurate.
Right.
And depends on the size. Like a 9x12, like a rug that we're sitting on, for
Right.
example, this is a 9 feet by 12 feet rug. I mean, if you go into a high-end retail store, you're talking about like, anywhere between 10, 15, $20,000.
10 to 15 lakhs?
10 to 15 lakhs, I think, is a nice, decent representation of a high-end rug in India or outside. But again, I mean, there's no ceiling
But
to
you're
this.
saying 10 to 15 if you walk into a shop, but you do bespoke. You do custom
So I-
rugs, so they will be even more expensive.
Absolutely. So I really want you to
So
represent.
people have to choose between their Birkin, their diamond, or Nikhil's rug.
Bernie, I feel there's not going to be a tough choice for you. If I ask you to choose between your Birkin and a rug, I know which way that conversation is.
No, that not necessarily. See, a rug is something you see every day. You
True.
use it every day. Your
True.
feet, your body, your skin touches it every day.
True.
When you have a small baby, your life is on the rug. I mean, you read your books on the
Absolutely.
rug.
Make memories on a
Make
rug.
memories on the rug. Take most of your photographs with your children on the rug. It's so important,
I want to be able to frame this, kind of
It's true,
clip
but it's so
and show it
true.
over and over again because
It's
it
so
is very
true.
accurate. But,
Part of your daily life.
100%.
I think, this is my personal opinion, you should invest the maximum in pieces and objects which are a part of your daily lifestyle, your daily
100%.
life, so whatever that is, because that's going to be used the most. It's going to give you maximum bang for your buck instead of something which you'll take out once in a while, use it, like put it back. The biggest example is like a wedding outfit. You wear it once and you never want to see it again. It's
The irony of the whole thing is if I say this, nobody's going to believe me. But now
But
that
this
we
is
have it on
true.
camera from you, I mean, it's
true,
going
but
to hold
so
much more weight.
It's so true. Like literally, especially for new moms, we live on rugs, And that
sure.
cashmere rug, I'm really thinking of getting one and sleeping on it very soon. But okay, is there any wild, like, or crazy expectation or brief you got from an interior decorator for a client? Sometimes celebrities are very eccentric. They ask for weird things. I mean, they name their children after like strange things also, so they can ask for anything.
There've been quite a few, quite
Yeah.
honestly.
Something funny that you can share?
There was one that was really interesting. It was for this particular project. I think it was in LA, from what I remember, and I think the customer wanted the rug to feel softer in certain portions of it, harder in certain portions of it, and like a medium, softness in certain areas. And it just blew my mind because they sent us, I remember, it was a 2-page long email explaining exactly what they wanted
Did they
in different
tell
portions.
you the reason?
I have no idea. I didn't really, I didn't really have the heart to.
Didn't your artisan say, "Call client, and what is this?"
It's just unbelievable,
Yeah.
So one of the roles that I personally have as well,
Yeah.
which I think at the beginning of the conversation I said is kind of an unfortunate role is I have to bridge the gap, between a really high-end interior designer and a customer sitting, in a loft in New York or, a townhouse or something, thinking that this rug is being, made in a printing press or something. It's being stamped and it's going to be delivered in
it's
2 days and
handmade,
stuff.
so there's always going to be that,
It's handmade. It's on average, you have even for a 9x12, which is like a standard size, you have 3 weavers sitting side by side on a loom, weaving anywhere between 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months, depending on the intricacy of the design and the materials, etc., etc. They have to get along.
They're spending time with each
They're
other.
spending
These
time with each
weavers,
other as
yeah, yeah.
weavers. They have to synchronize, their talent pool. I mean, there's just so much that goes into weaving a rug, finishing a rug, putting the whole thing together. Even the raw materials. When you talk about, we're talking about cashmere and mohair and all of these raw
Yeah.
materials. Carding the wool, spinning the wool. I mean, there's just so many different variables that go into this equation, and I really hope that we can do a better job as an industry, and with people like me, especially who's dealing with both ends of the market. I hope I can do a better job of conveying how incredible and beautiful and underrated
strenuous the
and strenuous.
processes, yeah.
100%.
Because sitting in New York in your loft, you think like a fairy in Jaipur is just flipping her wand around and like making this happen,
Absolutely.
And like I guess
Blows my
a
mind.
big part of the storytelling, and I'm so glad that a lot of in different industries, in garments, jewelry, now carpets, people are focusing on the backstory of how it's made. They're sharing the process, and I think that's what makes it real. The clients start understanding why it is so special, why it is priced a certain way, and it gives it so much value, right, when you give the backstory. Okay, so tell me about your collections. Like the carpet we're sitting on is a part of a collection you've made.
Yes. So it goes back to what I was saying a few minutes ago, Pani. I mean, we call it the Impasto collection. So
Okay.
as the name suggests, the collection is referenced and is based on impasto, that painting style, where you layer one coat of paint on top
Ah,
of the other.
okay.
Rembrandt was a big proponent of it. Van Gogh, Monet. I mean, so there's an entire narrative that we've woven around it. I think we do about 10 different designs in this collection. The raw materials we've used are, again, wool and silk primarily, and has a beautiful cross-stitch technique that we've
Yes,
used
it does.
that you can see and we're sitting on. But again, just goes to highlight, that every art form today, when you're presenting it or distributing it, it needs a very strong storyline, And I want to take this opportunity to jump into another collection that I've really been wanting to talk about. This was the one that you're referring to, that we launched in India as a pop-up in the beginning of the year, last year. It's called Chroma People,
Okay.
right? It's the concept is based on this mythical tribe, right, that worships color.
Oh.
So the campaign is shot. It's again 4 parts. I have this obsession with the number 4.
Yes.
It's 4 parts, and each color to the tribe denotes a blessing or an attribute that they're aspiring for. The day starts off with the color green. Green represents reimagination. This is when the tribe comes together and sets intention, thinks about possibilities. The color yellow represents a state of reverie. This is where the tribe kind of aligns all its thoughts and energies into one direction, and the imagery, takes you back to carding of wool, for example. So you're aligning all the fibers. It's a metaphor. You're aligning all the fibers of the wool as you're aligning fibers of intention. The next one is blue. The color blue represents cleansing, purification, cleansing of prejudices, preconceived notions and thoughts. And the imagery then takes you back to the washing of a rug, for example. The day ends with the color red, which represents divinity. It's the ultimate form of faith, where that the day that you've spent has
Yeah.
been spent well. There's a beautiful morning up ahead. I mean, and of course, I mean, these stories are very layered. I mean, I'm giving you a really compressed nutshell of what these campaigns are, but this is what we really want to do, and this is how we want to differentiate ourselves as a design studio, as a rug weaving legacy.
You want
company.
to differentiate yourself with storytelling, and you do it
Absolutely.
through these different collections, and there's an
Absolutely.
inspiration, there's a theme, there's like a proper story behind this whole thing.
We want to say things that represent the zeitgeist. We want to say things that represent the emotion of the times. And we want to say it through our rugs. We want to use our rugs as a canvas for painting these incredible narratives.
Now, see, rugs have to go into homes, right? Or offices. They have to go into someone's space. Do you keep that in mind to do a rug or to do collections which will kind of easily fit into like a palette or a home? Or because, I mean, they could be super artistic, very cool rugs, which a lot of people may not be comfortable with because they have to blend in also, right?
For sure.
So
I think
that's
it's
something you keep in mind?
I think it's the ultimate tussle. Quite honestly,
Acha.
it's something that one kind of goes back and forth with when you're designing, and I spend a lot of time myself designing. It gives me a lot of sukoon.
Yeah.
It gives me a lot of peace to design rugs. So I sit in with my design team on the process, and it's a constant tug of war where you're thinking, okay, this is what I want.
Yes.
This is how I want to express myself, and this is what we as a company, want. This is the direction we
Right.
want to go into, and then you kind of have to hold yourself back just a little bit because you're like, okay, this is going to go into someone's home
Space.
and space,
Yeah.
and you can only there's only so much crazy that someone wants in their home,
Right.
right? So I mean,
Right.
we do tone it down every once in a while, but we reward ourselves every once in a while as well, where we just go crazy with
I
certain
think
collections.
going crazy would be very cool on bespoke projects because
sure.
people have special requirements. It would be something unique.
For sure.
And are you getting more bespoke clients in India now? You said now it's changing, right? Because most of your clients were first in the US or outside of India. Now it's changing.
So majority of our business is still outside of India. We are in very small in terms of smaller sort of pop-ups and collaborations and projects now opening up in India as well. And I think I see an incredible future for India, in terms of consumption for beautiful hand-knotted rugs.
Where can one buy your rugs in India?
So we have
Through a pop-up?
we have distribution partners in Delhi, Hyderabad, Mumbai, Bangalore.
And where do they sell?
So we have a distribution partner called OBT.
OBT, yeah.
OBT
OBT
rugs.
is a very old carpet
Absolutely.
legacy brand as well.
There are
right?
partners in India, incredibly old legacy company again,
Right.
based out of Mirzapur,
Right.
in UP, and we have a lot of synergies and deals
Kaleen,
with them.
bhaiya. Okay, now I know. So Mirzapur, the show. Have you seen Mirzapur on Amazon Prime?
I've heard of the show. I haven't seen
Only
it.
Indian who's not seen the show.
I've
Anyway, it's a very good show. And there's a gangster. I guess I can call him a gangster. His name is Kaleen Bhaiya.
You're serious?
And now it makes sense because that means Mirzapur is a big carpet hug.
Huge
Because
carpet
your
hug.
partners, their business is from Mirzapur.
Huge carpet hug.
I'm a huge nerd, so I'm just excited about these small random things. Okay. All right. So OBT is from Mirzapur. They are
Yes.
your partners in India, and you
Yes.
do sell carpets through them.
Yes, the two collections that we've spoken about, Domni and Chroma People, that's definitely available through our partners in India, OBT.
And of course, you're available for bespoke for Indian clients as well.
Absolutely.
See, you are running a legacy carpet business by your great grandfather.
Sure.
I'm assuming you want this to carry forward, right? So, what is your hope for the future of this brand?
Even the bigger picture, if we may, kind of spend a second talking about that, I think rug weaving in India, I think is unfortunately a dying art form. I think it has to be
Is
preserved.
it? Why?
I think it has to be preserved. I mean, there are qualities I remember, like, when I came into the industry maybe a couple of decades ago, there were certain things that we could do. And this is during my, career as well. There were so many things that we could do that we can no longer do. And the reason for that is that the weaver that could weave that kind of intricacy doesn't exist anymore.
They're not teaching it to their it's not a family
It's-
business because usually weavers train their children and then they train their children. You usually right traditionally that's what happens.
Traditionally what happens. It's not the most glamorous thing to do.
Right.
The art form is not the most glamorous thing for like a young teenager or like a young
To want to get into.
21-year-old to sort of graduate and then get into rug weaving. So in that sense, it's not the most glamorous thing to get into for a young kid, but a huge percentage of weavers today are also women. So
Okay.
I definitely see a lot of potential there in terms of just expanding weaver base in India as a country. I'm not talking about just Tissage. I'm just talking about the industry
Overall,
as
you
a
know
whole.
what's so
Overall.
interesting? Weaving is something that can be done at home.
Absolutely.
So that is why I think women, and they do this with textiles also, and I guess carpets also, they can earn a living, become independent, even if they're in villages or smaller towns, because they can do it from their home.
For sure.
And they can make communities of women who weave together. And I think, do you think that would be the future to save this weaving craft?
I think like most other cottage industries in India, I mean, the fact that young women, even when they have children, can weave in the comfort of their
Exactly.
own home,
Yeah.
the security of their own home.
Right.
They can have friends from the community sort of come in
Right.
and weave together. Definitely makes it a very interesting proposition to sort of work with in the country. I mean, the population of the country is definitely expanding. the rural population is going to keep growing. So I
Right.
definitely see potential there. And I think that's where, companies like ours and some of the other ones that we've spoken about are really going to play a huge role in making sure that this art form is preserved. Hopefully, if we can preserve it for the foreseeable future, I think it's gonna be a thriving industry, much more so than it is today, for sure.
Do you feel like there's a lot of competition for you?
I think, like in any other art form, there's definitely competition. I'd be lying if I said there wasn't.
Right.
The end of the industry that we service, I think, is a small niche.
Very niche, yeah.
It's every company has its own place. Every artist has its own handwriting, own signature. I don't really feel insecurity or any kind of threat as such in terms of competition, and I genuinely believe competition is a good thing.
Healthy, yeah.
At the end of the day, an interior designer, thinks about a rug, knows about a rug. But how many people culturally in India, when they're making a home, how many people think about rugs? I mean, much more so now than they did 10 years ago.
Right. The small percentage of people who are consumers of luxury, for them, rugs and carpets are a very important part of their house.
For sure.
But I think the idea is to kind of now increase that market a little more and get more people in. And there are a lot of aspirational people who now have the money but may not have the knowledge, right?
What's definitely helping and will help in the future as well is just like, some overlap with other art forms as well, right? I mean, rugs is an incredible old artisanal art form in India, but what if you could marry it with like a fine art, painter or something? I mean,
That would be very cool.
I mean, imagine doing like a collection of rugs, inspired by paintings.
But
for
do it
example.
now.
I mean, these are things that are all,
Yeah.
that are all in process.
I've
and
seen people hang their rugs on walls as well, like rugs that are super special. They're like pieces of art. So I've
100%. I
seen
have
that.
friends who've done that with my rugs.
That's amazing.
I mean, the scope is
They're like,
unending.
Nikhil's coming home, hang his rug.
I hope that's not the case, and I hope they have it, regardless of whether
Yeah.
Nikhil's coming or not. But yeah.
No, I'm just joking. So where can people take a look at what Tissage is, what you do? The website for sure, because that's where I found you guys
I think
as well.
our Instagram handle, Tissage Rugs, represents what
You
we do.
very well, yeah.
Does a decent job of representing what we do.
Yeah.
The way we want to do things, I think, is definitely better to go on in our handle.
Okay, great. All right, thank you so much, Nikhil. This was nice. I
Thanks
feel
so
a
much,
little
Mona.
more, I feel a little more knowledgeable about the subject now. And it's just nice. I mean, it's something I've always liked and enjoyed, but never known much about. So I've loved the conversation.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Pernia. I am definitely going to use some of the reels from this, because I think you speak from authority. And if Pernia prefers one of my rugs over Birkin,
Oh my God, don't quote me.
I think that's.
I don't want my Hermes sales representative upset with me.
No, but it's
Yeah.
been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me over.
Thank you. So in my endeavor to support homegrown brands, today I am wearing a brand called Mati. You can find them on Instagram, and I'm wearing jewelry by Iva Jewelry, and you can also find them on Instagram.